I'd been living in my apartment for 33 days when my key stopped working. That's how precisely I remember it. 33 days after the contractor finally hauled out the last bag of plaster dust. 33 days after I'd stood barefoot on the laminate flooring. I'd spent 6 weekends installing myself, looking around at walls I'd painted badly but proudly, thinking, I did it. The place wasn't impressive, 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, a little crooked around the windows, because the building was older than everyone liked to admit. But it was mine, paid for with years of overtime, skipped vacations, and the kind of obsessive budgeting that turns grocery shopping into arithmetic. Emily had laughed when I bought it. Not cruelly, exactly, that would have been easier to dismiss. She'd been leaning against my mother's kitchen counter, swirling wine in a glass and smiling the way older siblings smile when they've already decided they're right. You, she'd said, owning a place, then she'd laughed. Give it 6 months. You'll either sell it or come crawling back when the bills hit. Everyone had smiled politely. My mother had even said, she's just being realistic. I remembered that as I stood outside my apartment door after work, trying my key again, and again, the metal slid in, but it wouldn't turn. At first I assumed the lock was jammed. Then I noticed the brass was brighter than before. New. I stared at it for a few seconds, my briefcase hanging awkwardly from one hand. Then I called my mother. She answered on the 2nd ring. Oh good, she said, you're off work. Something in her voice made my stomach tighten. My key doesn't work. A pause then, casually, as if she were mentioning the weather. We let Emily move in. I actually thought I'd misheard her. What? She's going through a very difficult divorce, my mother said. She needed somewhere stable. And honestly, you're young. You can stay with me for a while. There are moments when your brain refuses to process what it's hearing. Because the alternative is too absurd. I stood in that hallway with my useless key in my hand, and listened while she kept talking. She has children to think about eventually. Emily didn't have children. And this is what family does. How did she get in? Oh, don't be dramatic. You gave me your spare key years ago. For emergencies. Apparently, my sister's failing marriage counted as one. I could hear movement in the background, then Emily's voice, muffled but unmistakable. Tell her not to overreact. The old version of me would have. I would have driven straight to my mother's house. Yelled. Argued. Let the whole thing collapse into exactly the kind of emotional chaos my family always used to dismiss with "See? This is why no one takes you seriously." Instead, I looked at my apartment door, then at the lease agreement folded in my work bag. I'd needed it that morning for a refinancing call. Funny timing. Okay, I said. My mother sounded relieved. I'm glad you understand. I hung up, then I walked back down the stairs, got into my car, and drove to the police station. 3 blocks away. The desk officer was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses balanced low on her nose. I explained everything carefully. No embellishment, no outrage. Just facts. I handed her my ID, the property deed copy, and the active lease documentation from the homeowners association. She read everything twice, then she looked up. They changed the locks on your legal residence without permission. Yes, and someone is currently occupying it. My sister. She nodded once. The kind of nod that meant the situation had shifted categories in her mind. From family disagreement to unlawful occupancy. That was the moment control changed. Not dramatically, no music. No revelation, just paperwork becoming real. 2 officers accompanied me back. Emily opened the door wearing my robe. That detail hit harder than I expected. My mother was there too, standing behind her in my kitchen like she belonged there. For a moment, no one spoke. Then one officer said, in a calm, practiced voice, "Mom, are you the legal owner of this property?" Emily hesitated. No, but you need to gather your belongings. The silence that followed felt almost physical. My mother stepped forward first. There must be some misunderstanding. We're family. The officer didn't even look at her. This is a civil trespass matter. Family relation is irrelevant. I watched Emily's expression change, not to shame. Not even anger, just disbelief, as if she genuinely hadn't imagined a world where my boundaries existed outside her opinion of them. She packed in 40 minutes. My mother kept trying to catch my eye, waiting for some softening. There wasn't any. When they left, Emily paused in the hallway. She looked like she wanted to say something sharp enough to restore the old balance between us. Instead, she just said, quietly, "I needed help." Maybe she had, but that had never really been the point. "You needed permission," I said. Then I closed the door. Later that night, I sat on my badly installed floor and looked around the apartment. Nothing was broken. Nothing stolen. But something had changed permanently. People talk about self-respect like it arrives as confidence. For me, it arrived as paperwork, fluorescent lighting, and a police officer explaining property law to my mother. I didn't feel victorious, just clear. And, times, clarity is colder than anger.